Ang TNC po ay nakikiisa sa sambayan ng Pilipino para sa isang mapayapang bagong Pasko.
Ang bagong Pasko ay simbolo ng bagong pag-asa. Ito ay isang pagkakataon upang ating mapagnilayan ang mga kaganapan sa ating buhay.
Ang diwa ng bagong Pasko ay hindi mararamdaman sa mga palamuti o karangyaan sa ating kapaligiran, kundi sa alab ng pag-ibig sa ating mga dibdib.
Lahat tayo ay nakaranas ng hirap nitong taon na to. Dahil sa pandemya, nawalan tayo ng oportunidad. Kahit na anong mangyari, pinipilit pa din natin makapagbigay ng saya sa iba. Yan ang diwa ng bagong Pasko.
Para sa akin, ang bagong Pasko ay hindi concerned sa handaan o sa mga regalo. Sharing, giving, taking care of each other. Sana simula ngayong bagong Pasko, ganun na lahat tayo.
Maraming salamat po sa new channel, Maligayang Pasko.
Christmas is always a reminder to have an attitude of gratitude. And that means sharing the love and appreciating everything that matters to you.
Christmas is a celebration of life.
And let us all be grateful that we are enjoying God's gift of life.
Ang bagong Pasko ay simple at payak, nakasentro sa ating pamilya at sa ating Panginoon.
I want to remind everyone that we should treasure the connection that we have. We have our friends, our family, and of course, Jesus Christ.
Para sa akin, ang diwa ng Pasko hindi nagbabago kahit kailan. Ito ay panahon ng pagmamahalan, pag-iibigan. Walang makakatalo sa pagmamahal na binigay sa atin ng Panginoon.
Maraming salamat po, The New Channel, Maligayang Pasko.
Ang tunay na diwa ng bagong Pasko ay hindi lang paghahangad ng mga regalo o mga bagong bagay. Ito ay ang pagpapahalaga sa mga bagay na meron na tayo at ang matutunang ibahagi ito sa mga nangangailangan.
Maraming salamat po, The New Channel.
Dapat din natin tandaan ang totoong diwa ng Pasko, si Kristo Jesus. Noon, ngayon, at magpakailanman.
Ang bagong Pasko para kanako, dili ang masigarbong pagsaulog, kundi ang pag-ambit o ginabang sa mga taong mas nanginahanglan ng panahon sa pandemya.
Ang diwa ng bagong Pasko ay ang pag-iingat sa ating mga sarili, pagiging ligtas sa kapamakan, at pagpapabuti sa ating kalusugan.
Maraming salamat po, The New Channel, Maligayang Pasko.
Maraming salamat, The New Channel, Maligayang Pasko.
Ngayong bagong Pasko, isabuhay natin at maging saksi sa kaganapan sa Belen.
What does the new Christmas mean to me? It means reconnecting. Reconnecting with the people you love, the people you care about, the people you have not spoken with in a long time, that always made you happy.
We should never forget, Christ is still the reason for the season.
The new Christmas for us is focusing on the basic unit of society, which is your family, and fruitful togetherness with friends and relatives.
And of course, sharing your blessings to others in need.
Celebrate Christmas with full of gratitude.
Maraming salamat sa New Channel! Maraming salamat sa E15 Channel!
Ang Pasko ay tungkol sa pagmamahal mo sa pamilya mo at pagiging mabuti sa kapwa.
Christmas is the season of giving. But you cannot give if your hands are closed. So open your hands and your hearts and give. And your open hands will receive so much more.
Maraming salamat to The New Channel! Maligayang Pasko!
Christmas is the season of giving. It is best spent with our families. But let us not also forget that this is the celebration of the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Para sa akin, ang diwa ng bagong Pasko ay ang pagkakaroon ng mas madaming oras para sa ating mga pamilya.
Maraming salamat sa New Channel, Maligayang Pasko!
Christmas is always about sharing and caring, loving ourselves, and loving others.
Ang bagong Pasko para sa akin, malayo man tayo sa isa't isa, ang pagmamahal ay atin pa rin maipadarama. Maligayang Pasko po at manigong bagong taon sa inyong lahat.
sa labi mo'y naglaho na ang iyong tuwa at saya, napalitan ng kaba. Itatanong kung may pag-asa pa. Ang hamon ng panahon ngayon, tayo'y pinaglayo ng pagkakataon. Ngunit ikaw nag-iisa, huwag ka nang mangangamba. May kasama ka kahit nasan ka pa. Malayo man malapit din, ang Pasko'y darating pa rin. May luha man may ngiti, basta tayo'y magkapiling. Sa mundong nagdidilim, tala niya'y maglilinig. Ang pagmamahal sa puso mo, ang diwa ng bagong Pasko. Sabihin mo ang bagong umaga, sa pagkakatapay bumangon ka. Sa Paskong darating, pangarap ay tuloy pa rin. Kapayapaan ang maghahari sa atin. Malayo man malapit din, ang Pasko'y darating pa rin. May luha man may ngiti, basta tayo'y magkapiling. Sa mundong nagdidilim, tala niya'y maglilinig. Ang pagmamahal sa puso mo, ang diwa ng bagong Pasko. Kahit na magkalayo, ikaw ang laging nasa puso. Kahit nasaan ka pa, dama pa rin ang pagsinta. Ang pagsinta, malayo man malapit din, ang Pasko'y darating pa rin. May luha man may ngiti, basta tayo'y magkapiling. Sa mundong nagdidilim, tala niya'y maglilinig. Ang pagmamahal sa puso mo, ang diwa ng paglayo man malapit din. Ang Pasko'y darating pa rin. May luha man may ngiti, basta tayo'y magkapiling. Sa mundong nagdidilim, tala niya'y maglilinig. Ang pagmamahal sa puso mo, ang diwa ng bagong Pasko. Pagmamahal sa puso mo, ang diwa ng bagong Pasko.
The new channel. The new channel.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers, They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the new channel. Here to help you see the new you, the new Christmas. This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo, your host to this wonderful program, HR Hotline. Good afternoon. This is a wonderful day. We are celebrating today the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I know Maricor is viewing us and she'll be happy. And I am. There's even in the feeds that if you attend a mass now, because we are online in Guadalupe, of course, in Mexico, you'll have plenary indulgence. Sarado Katoliko po ako, kaya I believe in that. The remissions of our sins. Now, this is wonderful kasi diba, that was what do you call this? A miracle, an apparition. So Saint Diego now, was able to witness the apparition. So how was he able to inform? So the best thing that he did was to inform the bishop. And the bishop did not at first believe. So he was asked to bring evidence. And the evidence was the roses. Oh, you have to know that story. I am not even very sure if my story is fact. Why am I starting with this little story? Because what we're going to talk now is about communication. And it is very important in our lives now that we are in a pandemic. We are going to talk about corporate communication. Oh, a lot of you will be telling me, we have that. Are you sure? If you were able to read the preview I am sending to some of my friends, I did chose the right terms. What is an effective an efficient internal communication that will have an impact on the culture and the organization culture. The other one is what is the effective external communication. So for internal, I use the word efficient. For external, I use the word effective. And the objective is that can have a brand for the company to claim that he is an employer of choice. And I added the ethics. We are now in this what you call virtual digital age. And sometimes we miss the total online presence of who we are going to represent. The ethics, the ethics in your online presence. How are you consistent? How are you looking into your authenticity? You cannot just be yourself. Oh, it was nice during the face to face because you are just dealing with somebody asynchronous, one on one. But you know, asynchronous is actually used in online. This was a face to face, but I mean. But now you are on cloud, you are virtual. They can even forward, they can even record you. So that is your personal communication that we can bring to our internal and to our external communication. We have to be very careful. So from ethics, the etiquette. Oh, you are going to ask that to our guest. We have a wonderful guest. She's a graduate of UP. I know, you know, if my dad allowed me or my mom allowed me to study here in Manila at the time, I should be maybe a classmate of our guest. Because in the UP exam when I was high school, I was able to pass the National Science High School exam. That is for first year high school. They did not allow me because at that time there were rallies. Then I again applied and then took the exam for UP when I was in high school. I passed it. And you know what was the college that I passed? Mascom. I should be the classmates of all of these Mascom graduates in UP. The first class. And you know, a lot of things that I was not able to avail of. I was an exchange scholar. I passed the exchange scholar. And would you believe this is a joke? This is a joke family. I passed the PMA exam. You know, when you're in high school, you take and take a lot of exams. And I passed it. Now, going back. So we have our guest. She comes from UP. And for the longest time, she was with Meralco as a senior manager, as a head of communication, publication, advertising, and special events. A lot of things when she was in Meralco. And later on, she went to Halsey as a BP for communication. Yes. Then she is an accredited APR, accredited public relations, and an IABC fellow, the highest honors given to the by the International Association of Business Communicators. So we're in good hands. We will ask her to help us because as an HR person or as owners of businesses, we must be very particular with our communications. So let's call my friend Ritzi Ronquillo.
Hello, Jesse.
Yes, thank you, Ritzi, for joining us. And this is HR Hotline. Yes, I can see there are pictures at your back. Who are they? Are they your? Is that you or
Yeah,
you?
I'm not going to move the screen because Director Jay asked me to keep it steady. But if I will move my screen a little higher, then you'll see my three children. So I guess for all parents, your best your best accomplishments are your children. So we're really
Sure,
proud of
sure.
our children, and
And
that's my
you
wedding
have your
picture.
you have your wedding picture also.
That's
And you
right.
know,
That's my
I
husband.
I also have a china that I can see a china at your back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are the authentic things that are so everyday with us, no? These are the China cabinet actually has like our wedding gifts, or say even some hand-me-down uh, uh, items from my mother-in-law, and so it's really things that we have really actually are not just
I
material things. They
Rich, I remember.
represent they
I remember.
represent the best of what we have in our lives.
Yes, I remember my brother is now gone. One time he was asking me, why is it that you have all of these old things in your house? I actually have antique chairs, a sala set in my sala, in my living room. And you know
Yeah.
what I did? I stripped them with the varnish. So
Mm.
it really looks old. And I have that feel. Maybe at that time I was a member of Jose Rizal's clique. anyway,
I think they call
anyway,
that distressed.
yeah, just
What do you call that? Distressed approach or to how
yes,
furniture or things should be, something like
yeah.
that.
Because I've read that you have to retain the patina of time.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
patina. So even with my piano, I stopped the piano tuner to have it repainted and repainted. So they will keep
yeah.
it that way. If the dogs were able to scratch it, that is history.
Actually, Jesse, what you're saying is what we're all trying to say this time, that authenticity, back to basics, back to the core of who we are
Okay,
and
yes,
our character. So
yes.
actually, that's a material way of symbolizing what we'd like to do,
I
especially in
love
times
that.
like
I
now.
love that, Richie, because a lot of people now they lack what maybe should be with every one of us. The breathing, your DNA. Your
Yeah.
DNA. And because it now surfaces that this time that you are now communicating. So let us now start um, with communication.
Okay.
Um, yes, Richie.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. You can shoot me
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. The first one is I was actually so careful in choosing the right what do you call this
Term.
adjective, the right
Oh,
term.
okay.
For the internal, it has to be efficient. Can you tell us your thoughts about internal communication? And then can we connect it with the culture? Because the people that are
Yeah.
listening to us are actually in HR. Please.
Okay.
And tell us stories when you were in Meralco. We will love that.
Okay. First is, of course, culture. It's a suma total of everything we are. It is how we speak, it's how we dress, it's the company policies, it's how these policies are done and are applied, especially in bad times, especially when it's difficult. That's when employees really feel the sincerity, authenticity, and consistency that a company or management has. Now, back to communication first as an umbrella profession and as an umbrella discipline. Communication exists because we embrace diversity. So even way before the diversity, equality, and inclusion that is raging now across the world, already communication was saying that we embrace diversity. We each of us is so different. We cannot be the same. So it brings together now all these different people, different ideas, different disciplines and professions. At tinatahi po niya ito. We bring it all together in a corporation or in a company or institution. We'll bring all of these together. That is the beauty of communication. We can be anywhere. And so for internal communication to prosper, um, it has to be purposive. I mean, we do things because there is something we want to achieve. There is some result we want to see. And it's not just to see a result per se, but it's also to say, because I achieved the result, this result, say, did I create awareness? Did I create knowledge? Did I effect an attitude change? Did I change the habits or practices of my internal audience? These achievements are supposed to contribute to the bigger picture of the institution or corporation. It's got to be aligned, it's got to be purposive, and it's got to contribute something. So you probably say, so what does that mean? So, for example, um, the um, the drop in, say, absenteeism contributes now to productivity. And if productivity rises, therefore, perhaps market share will increase, or perhaps when management, the C-suite reports to the board of directors, they can say that the balance scorecard has moved forward and the share prices have not dropped. So you see, there's a big ecosystem. So we start with internal, we build the core, we build the pride in the company, we build the sincerity, authenticity within, the trust within, the palabra de honor within, and then it has a long way to go to continue to help our company exist. And when our institutions continue to be viable and exist, then we have jobs. So there is a micro look at it. So we do our jobs very well internally. And then we have to know how we connect with the bigger picture all the way up and even external. So, like, for example, some employees for, say, working for publicly listed companies maybe are not aware that if something goes wrong within the company and it affects, say, public perception of their company, it could suddenly make share prices drop, or it could impact
Wow.
on the market. So these are things that communicators help the
I
company with. Internally, they help the employees have a pride and like what they're doing and see the purpose in what they're doing. But a good communicator will also connect this now to the big picture and tell the employees, because because you flicked on a switch, it means that down the line, it means something. I'll give you an example. Working for a public utility is very challenging. I have colleagues in different public utility companies today who always, every day, have to deal with irate customers or complaints. But you see, there was one particular day when I was really so saddled, and not only me, but even my colleagues, with so many things to do, especially, say, if there's a storm, a typhoon, or there are um, natural calamities. So these are things beyond your control. So this could stress you. So you go to work, maybe given extra time and render extra time. And then you start thinking, was it worth it? And sometimes these extra times are not big things you have to do. Sometimes these are very tactical. Like, for example, answering a simple phone call of a customer and listening to the customer and trying to ask the customer, what can I do to help you? That is a tactical way to help the company. But then, after a whole day of doing several tactical things like that, answering phone calls, answering emails, when I went home, I started seeing things like, I started looking around and saying, I saw children walking home under the streetlights. When I got home, I saw my children doing their homework under the lights. And then I know at that certain time, my mom is watching her favorite teleserye, which means that she needs the product and service that the company I was with was giving. And so I said, wow, this, for a simple thing as I answered a phone call today, that customer multiplied several times, perhaps made the job of many other of my colleagues easier.
yes,
So
Rich.
I think communicators have to see it in a continuum. So I call it trees and forest,
Yes,
micro, macro. And then you go zoom in and zoom out. And then you have
yes,
to do it with ease. So it
yes,
starts small. It could even start with yourself. For example, your HR di po ba? So when you sign up for a job, ako, I have a checklist. And if I may share my checklist is one, do I believe in the product and service of the company that
yes,
I will join? Number
yes,
two, can I or my family or my parents use the product and service safely. Number three, and this is just me, I ask myself, will my mom be proud? And tell my family, oh, my daughter's working for this company, this is a product and service. So it starts there, and then it grows down the continuum until
Yes,
you,
Richie, what you're telling
yeah,
us is actually aligning your personal mission and vision to the mission and vision of the organization,
yes,
which is actually the key is communication. But while
yes.
listening to you, the problem now that your anecdote on people trying to be online, which is a total online presence, so there are sometimes what we miss the ethics or the etiquette of being online. People rant,
Mm,
people wash dirty linens in public. They tell something what is happening in the association, in the organization, in the business, and they post it online. So what are your thoughts on that as far as internal communication is concerned? And that is what I was asking about the ethics there.
mm. Well, first is so if you're part of an institution, the institution should have by that time some kind of guidelines. What can you
Right.
say? What can you not say? To whom should you say it and why? For example, if you're with a call center and say you're a call center for a company, it has to be very clear to you by some sort of guidelines that says you can answer questions like related to how much is the product, or say how soon can I get my service back and all that. But when it comes to policy, then maybe it is something you have to refer now to the corporate communication department. So
Right.
you really have to have guidelines. It has to be very clear. Your role in the whole cycle has to be really clear, and how far can you go? That has to be very clear to the employee. Now, um, the the emergence of social media and online communication has really unleashed sometimes the beast in us. But you see,
Yes.
but you see, um, I think that's what makes our profession challenged. Also, we have to we have to talk more. We have to um, inform people more about what is social media, what can be done. And sometimes from the legal point of view, there are also laws or rules that have to be followed. So I think that one is needed also. We have to know the parameters, but things are going to evolve. Even as we speak now, Jesse, somewhere in
Yes.
the world, in some obscure little town, or even in some obscure
Yes.
little garage, just like what happened in the U.S. Um, when the internet came about. It started in a small garage. Um, Even as we speak, there will always be new channels to come around, and these new channels will really throw open the window to what I mean. It will take away the parameters of what we've grown so used to. So
Okay.
also
Who?
communicators as HR
Richie.
practitioners nowadays have to be very flexible, very agile. Hindi pwedeng
Yes.
very, ito lang, ganyan lang. We have to be open. We have to keep scanning the
Okay.
environment.
With that, who is the one in charge? Who is the owner of that particular function? Should it
You
be
mean,
HR or everybody, or should it management?
management, especially top management, definitely has to lead the pack. It cannot
Yeah.
be that they do not espouse it, because we lead by example, right? So I have seen instances where CEOs themselves take on the key message that HR wants to say, or that communication wants to say, and it's very effective. I've seen CEOs do that. In fact, in the organization I'm part of, the International Association of Business Communicators Philippines, we have what we call the CEO Excel Award. We give it to leaders, whether you're in institutions, nonprofits, foundations, or corporations. We give it to top leaders who use communication as a major strategy, a major pillar in their business strategy. And what we're seeing here is that because they themselves put it as a priority and as important component of their strategy, we see them not only achieve their business goals but surpass. I have personally seen as a CEO who had to talk to his guys in the middle of the quarter, and they were nowhere near their sales targets. But because he had a very strong internal backbone, meaning there was pride in the company, they trusted him, he was sincere, and he told them there was hope. Do you know that at the end of the quarter, the company just didn't meet it? It surpassed. And midway, it was nowhere near at all. Or say a CEO who wanted his employees to partly own the company. So employees didn't know what was a stock ownership, what are
Yeah.
shares of stock. He personally told his secretary to clear his schedule. I'm going to talk to employees. He went around and he talked to employees. When the stock ownership program was concluded, there was 98% um, participation of the employees. It's one of the
Okay.
highest in
Okay.
the
With
business
that,
industry.
with that, Richie. So, what are the ingredients? What are the dimensions or the elements that HR or management should have to ensure that there is actually what you call efficient uh, internal corporate communication, and then
Okay.
of course it affects your effectivity for your external. So, what are
Yeah.
these? What are
Okay.
these areas?
So let's go back to management. They have to walk the talk, especially when there is transformation. They have to be visible. They have to be consistent, visible, authentic, sincere, accessible. And then I've seen it in different companies. It depends on how the company is structured, whether the process owner of internal comms is HR primarily, supported by comms, or the process owner is comms, supported by HR. I've also seen it in some companies where uh, comms handles the channels and does the key messaging, but HR does the below the line or the hand holding with employees. So it really depends, but what's important is very consistent and very
Yes.
sincere. And uh, my prime example is this: even as an entry level, because I also entered a company as an entry level employee, I was a rank and file. And I remember those days because for me, it was a good input. When later on I was in charge of of the country communications, I had to remember my days as someone who was new. So I realized that can you go to your leader, whether they are in HR or comms, pour your heart out and say you have a problem with your work or with your even your private life if you trust them enough? Can you go to them and know full well in your heart that at some point when you are up for say promotion or when you're up for an internal award, they will not take that information against you? Can you trust them that much? And the palabra de honor. If management says this much, what happens if you have to, if something happens, like the example of Airbnb, it's written about on the internet if you'd like to check it out. He made a corporate culture whereby everyone was like family. So he said, you have security of tenure here, we'll take care of you, and all that, like a family. And then the pandemic happened, and then
Mhm.
all and then suddenly the business was in great trouble and they could not sustain, so he had to go back to his employees and apologize and say, we're sorry, but we have to retrench. But if and when we get a chance again and times get better, we will get back to you first in
Yeah.
case we have to rehire. So I think we forget sometimes that we are people, we make mistakes, we're not perfect. What's
Yes.
important is that if we make a mistake or we are in trouble, I think for me, the sign that internally things are good, if the leaders can go to the people and say, folks, we have a problem. And if, because I've also seen it from some companies that employees say, uh, guys, you're coming to us to help you in a company problem. Why are you only coming to us now? Why did you not tell us at the
Right,
very
that
start?
usually happens. That usually happens.
Yeah. So, like for example, the communicator should not be brought in at the end when it's time to issue the press release. When there is a whiff, yung konting amoy lang na baka magka-problema, this might be a media issue or this might be an internal morale issue, bring
You
in
know,
the communicator already.
sometimes you are viewed as a negative person, as somebody who is a detractor, somebody who is opposing things, and
But
that
then
is
again,
the dynamics of communication internally.
I think what's important well, not only in communication, but in any profession, is to agree to disagree. As I said, we're all unique people, even
I
twins.
love that.
One twin is different from the other, and yet they're fraternal twins or whatever. I mean, each one's different, and that's the beauty of a communicator. Tinatahi niya yan lahat. So you can find communicators in the military, you can find them in churches, you can find them in business, you can find them in hospitals, because tinatahi nila lahat nitong disparate and diverse people. Also, is that
You know, Richie, I am perfecting that.
good for you. Good for you. We are also comfortable with, guess what? Gray. We like defining. We like helping people take stock and understand the situation. That's why
On.
yeah, that's why kasi communication creates common ground so that there is understanding, acceptance, and credibility of the organization for which we
I love it.
represent. So it takes time, ha? Ano to, relationship building talaga to, Jessie. It's not a pok, ganon, and we're fine. No, it takes time. That's why a good professional communicator will develop this over time. And I promise you, if you do that, I promise you the roots of the trust and the uh, being together and connection is so deep that even I have seen it in companies where retiree na po siya, but he comes back and he tells the CEO, "What is this I read in the newspaper? I read about our company. That's not true. Can you send me information? I want to tell my neighbor that that's not true." I have seen these things really, really happen. So I really
Wow.
am a great believer in internal communication. Some company, like one company I've been with, because here you have to do what we call audience segmentation. So you have to understand, who are these people talking to? Where are they? What time of day should I give this major message? So we identified not only employees, but we also further segmented them into service personnel, say the guards, the janitorial services, all the drivers who drive for us, or say the families of employees, maybe even retirees, people who are stakeholders. Kaya nga po, di ba, ang gamit ngayon, stakeholder, anyone who has anything to do or will be affected
Yes, yes.
by
Okay,
the
okay,
company.
Richie. When we come back, let's now discuss the external communication. But you know, just while listening to you in the season 5, you will be back because mabibitin ito. But you know, I would like to ask everybody who's viewing now. There are a lot of friends of ours viewing us now. If you have some thoughts on communication, pag-post po kayo so that we can have a good interaction also. We have here
Yeah.
Maricor, we have here Leo, we have here a lot of them. Some of them hindi pa, but I can see that we are a number here. So wonderful conversation with Richie. Let's have first a break, and then we come back. We continue with communication now, this time for external. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to HR Hotline. Can we have the poster wherein I will invite everybody to tune in, log on to that new channel because we have wonderful programs almost every hour for the entire week. From the big picture down to the market leader, U-turn to couples on to the talk to well home to women at work to one day. And don't forget, be with me lunchtime. You're my lunch date, but sometimes these are already. This is a recording. These are recorded, and I have a playlist, and these are shared, and I can see it at night time. I can see people are really watching the shows. Okay, yes, Ritzi, can we have Ritzi? Yung aking friend, I have a best friend who's actually my mentor, my my critic. We are actually we're actually texting during the break. And then she was asking because of your Meralco days, are you friends now with Vivian and Agnes Fidelino?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes! Oh, yeah! Yun. Yun.
Yes.
Kasi ang sabi ko, sabi ko, I like and love the mindset of Ritzy.
You're a
Anyway,
good
Ritzy.
friend. Great
Anyway,
colleagues of mine.
I can still remember the time that we were seated together, the endless chit chat that we had. Now let's go back. Let's go back to what we are
Okay.
supposed to share. You have to share. I have to squeeze all the things that you know so that we can share it to the HR. Now, so from internal to agree and disagree, there is a connection. Now let us go external. So I'm very sure there is a connection between internal to external.
Mm.
So I use a very particular effective external so that you can have that brand that you are the employer of choice. What are your thoughts on this, Richie?
Okay. Again, the internet and the online and digital cyber world we have today has blurred the line between internal and external. For example, you could
At
come out
all.
with a great line outside, a great campaign outside. But what if you chance upon an employee and you just ask him offhand in a very informal setting? Say you just see him waiting for a bus, and then you ask him about this new campaign, and then he rants about the company. What do you think that will tell about your company?
Right.
So you cannot control everybody's thoughts. But what you can do is develop in them that pride in company. I have personally seen how proud employees can be, even in the face of bribes. They say, I'm sorry, we don't need that. We just do our jobs. They are just so proud. It can happen. So others will probably say, Ritzy, you're probably talking about uh, what do you call it, aspirations. No, I have personally seen this. I have personally worked with people who really do this as a matter of regular life. So it is possible. So, but before we go to the external, because internal, external, whatever it is, as I said again, everyone's unique. I liken it to an orchestra, di ba, Jessie? So orchestra,
Yes.
and if any of you have seen an orchestral score, the orchestral conductor has a huge score. It's a very long, siguro 1.5 to 2 feet long score. Every in that score, it's a huge booklet, and every instrument has its own line. So even
Right.
if you're a violin, if you're violin one, violin two, violin three, you each have your own line. How's that for uniqueness? But each one has its own quality. So a violin would sound different from an oboe or a clarinet or a drum. However, when that when that uh, conductor puts up his baton and says, "Let's take it from the top," all these instruments fall in line. Each one gives his part best
Love it.
to come together with just one song. So you're all moving in the same direction for the same purpose, but each of you does not give up who you are. You're giving in your best. You cannot be out of tune. because the conductor can hear it and he'll say, "Whoops, violin to your little sharp there." So uh, that just goes to show for me that the leader should be. I'm assuming the leader should be pretty well qualified for that. Otherwise, he'll not be able to hear that
Let
off
me catch you there. Let
thing.
me catch. Yes, the first question is the leader must be qualified to be able to read from the score
Yes.
and to be able to inspire people to be
Yes.
still on their own. But of course, you know, personally, I know that, Richie, because I am a member of a choir before, although I don't have the voice now. And you know, with my lolo, the Napais, we used to have a family ensemble. Sometimes you pronounce it ensemble. Then an orchestra. And I used to play the piano and sometimes the cello. You know, there's a big difference when you play the piano in when you are playing it on your own, then you have to play it with gusto. But when you are playing it with an orchestra, you are just part of the accompaniment. So I can feel you. Please continue. Go on. I'm inspired, Rich.
Okay. Um, in that kind of, so it tells us that in that ecosystem, and that's one of the words I'd like to introduce in these times of pandemic. We are so super interconnected. We belong to an ecosystem. What happens in one impacts on the rest. So back to the orchestra, we have a little sharp note in one instrument, it impacts on the whole thing. Or say
Of course.
somebody is off the rhythm, say it should have been a rest, no sound, and suddenly somebody comes in with a one note thing, so that puts everything in. I mean, it's very obvious that something's not right. So also in organizations, however, um, I think that since again we go back to we're all people, we're not perfect. As long as we're able to know how to get back and say right the situation that has suffered a little bit because what maybe a misstep happened, but that happens. So back now to external. So as I was saying, internal external, because of digital, cyber, and online, lines have blurred. Why? Because in the earlier days, when we come out, say, with an FAQ for employees, say we want to talk about the latest CBA, so we say we come out with a Q&A, or we call it FAQ. We say this is for employees use. Fine, it's there. But today we want to release it through intranet. So what's to say that it will not be forwarded, downloaded, shared, reposted? So now even when we communicate, uh, my personal thing is anything you put online is almost like a public document. So it brings me now to consideration, respect, respect for diversity, courtesy. It's like saying, why will you say this to someone if you don't want it said like that to you? So this is a time when we go back to our basics. So now, internal, external. External can always check back now with internal. Is this true? Is this real? And uh, Jesse, for example, you see a statement, well crafted, well edited, and well cleared with the whole hierarchy, versus one um, man on the street interview by an employee, and he says exactly the opposite of what's in the well crafted statement. Tendency of netizens now is they will pay more attention to this very authentic and raw statement versus a very well crafted one, and they will compare and contrast, and then they will see discrepancy, and then conversations happen online. And we know naman the online world, it's like a free for all for now, until there are laws that are put in place to regulate. But still, as of right now, it's a free for all. Everyone can express himself freely. So you can
Cyberbullying.
imagine. Oh,
Cyberbullying or
yeah,
shaming.
yeah, these are things that are evolving. And through time, I think we will be able to deal with it. Except that again, as I said, when we find out, the way I look at it is when we find finally a way to regulate it, there's a new channel coming up. And this new channel will also need a new round of rules and protocols. So that's really the world we live in now.
But
So
you
to
know,
be a communicator today,
going back, but Richie, going back, that this is actually happening and it's ongoing and we are moving forward. There should be somebody in the organization to look into this because
yes,
sometimes it is going out of
yes.
board. Yes,
That's the role of the communicator. That's why communicators, when we make our plans, our plans, there are actually two components. One is the issue and crisis communication, which is there is already a problem or there's a brewing problem. But the more important part is in what I call good times, when there's no problem, there's nothing happening, we're below the radar, we're not receiving negative news, is we build now. That's when we build the organization. That's when we build the relationships and choose well our external partnerships and alliances. We try to find
love it.
companies or organizations that align with us or that we share similar values. So there's a lot of work that communicators do actually.
But
I mean,
you know,
a whole lifetime
You know,
actually.
I told you that I love it because sometimes that what the perception of communicators is actually the old style of brainstorming of actually a bull session of only having communication and trying to be adversarial, and then they're good at it and they're comfortable that the communication leads into that direction. What I'm listening to you is the positivity in organization. Of course, there is a problem, there is an issue, but how you tackle it is what you're telling us now.
We prepare for bad times in good times. Unfortunately, though, to be a very good crisis manager, the best crisis managers are those who have gone through crisis. Unfortunately for us
Right.
all, and I guess even in our personal lives, right? We are strengthened whenever we go through difficulty. And hopefully, if we take on the lessons that come uh, with that learning, then we can be able to resolve or solve the difficulty ahead. We
Teka
can be
muna, teka muna.
calm about it.
Teka muna. Richie, can we have a part 2 of this?
Sure,
Kasi
sure.
we are, I will schedule, let's have a part 2 of this. But kasi it's already 1 o'clock and we'll have one more break and then I'll ask you for your parting message. But I
Sure.
can see here my nephew Rizen is watching and Jairo. Jairo, get ready because I will also invite you to be one of my special guests here. Okay, wonderful conversation. Let's have a break and then after that, we'll go back for your parting message, Ritzi. Okay,
Okay.
Direct, can we have the check? Okay, we're going to skip the hotline portion or the consultation portion because we dedicate that on Thursdays, also the job fair. So let us go back to Ritzi, the rep. Richie, wonderful conversation. There are a lot of. I listened to your questions, but we only are on the third one, so we will have a second uh, episode dedicated for this. And I am learning a lot from you. So, can we have your uh, parting message to the viewers,
Okay,
please?
I have 5 points to leave everyone with. Number one is communication enables common understanding. We respect and we expect that there will be uniqueness in each one. So when we do communication for institutions or organizations, it's got to be purposive, respectful of this uniqueness of each one. Number two is that our best work, if we do it, we each have a role to play. So our best work, collectively put together, will also impact on a bigger purpose, which is good for our organization or institution. Number three is that cross functionality. We cannot operate as silos. That's why we don't have solutions. Because, say, HR, say, for example, if there is an issue or a company change, especially, say, a transformation, we have to work together: HR, communication, IT, finance, operations, etc., etc. Fourth is that this is a time when the pandemic is telling us it's time to go back to our authentic core. So who is it that we are? What are our values? What is our real character? What do we do when no one's not looking? So once we define what our authentic core is, then people will look towards us and say, are we showing that authentic core in practice? Are we consistent? Are we do we show it in how what we say? So I'd say communication is really, why are we doing it? For whom are we doing it? In what way will we do it? For what purpose? And what do we want to really achieve? For whom? For what? So in this time, I think it's a good time because it's Christmas. So it's the reason for the season really is the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we really should look back into why we do things, how we do things, and the purpose, our mission and purpose. So I guess it's a good time to reflect. And if communication is something you would like to talk about more, perhaps you could give your questions to Jesse and he can forward to me and we can correspond about
Sure.
it. We may even have another session, as Jesse said. I'll be very
Yes.
happy to do that because it's one of the keys to today's understanding each other and to understanding our world today. So, Merry
Yes.
Christmas to everybody.
Thank you.
Maligayang Pasko at isang makabuluhang bagong taon para po sa atin lahat. Ligtas po sana tayong lahat ngayong bagong taon at ngayon pong Pasko. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Ritzy. Ritzy is a friend, and something that we gathered from you is your authenticity and is your pureness of your intention. Kitang-kita. I can feel you. But you know what I gathered to conclude the episode today? It's your motivation. Richie told us about the purpose. What is your motivation? What is your motivation for living? What is your motivation for communicating as an individual? It is nested in you. But you know, we are in organizations and we have to, as Ritzy told us, we have to be collaborative and we have to be respectful on how we communicate. Civil, I think, is the word. Almost all organizations have in their values communication, and it is a functional part of the big function: marketing, sales, HR, people management, and finance. But the one linking all of this or shortening the gaps is actually communication. And of course, I like it. You agree to disagree. It is not nice that you are in an association or in an organization, that you are a fans club. For us to really have what we call communication, a conversation, there should be somebody telling something and somebody replying, and there is what we call the feedback. If there is none, I think Richie will agree with me that there is no effective conversation or communication. So we need that. We need that because how are you going to be efficient in the association, in the organization, in your family? How can you be effective outside? The key is on yourself. The key is how your perspective on how you're going to communicate. The key is that you have to follow, as Richie told us earlier, some guidelines. If there is an, even in the house, I have a guideline here that there should be no putang ina. Ano, I spelled it. Hindi ko nga marunong yan. Hindi crispy. Wala. Wala yan. Everybody, even the habal-habal boy, no, they know it. But when you are here, so there is that ruling. There is that ruling. Or, I was told by family, when you say thank you, there should be you are welcome. Oh, these are details. But there should be a guideline. Ethics. A guideline. Standards of how we are going to communicate, because we are, as Richie told us, we are different, and sometimes we try to project our authenticity, but there should be a check because we are communicating, and that communication should be carefully taken because it can be brought out now that it is viral and we are online. I pause for us to think. Maliit na bagay. You can hear me. You can even give your comments on me. And that is communication. No, hindi yun. We have to be ascendant. We have to know the motivation for our well-being. Again, I would like to end this communication episode with the result-based management mindset. When you communicate, what is the output? What is the result? You have to think not of yourself, full of yourself, not of now, your relevance now, but of the future, and which is the outcome. The outcome comes from what I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth. I knew not where. That is the outcome. And I think what I gathered from Richie is the impact. At the end of the day, you can be at the other end of the communication process. You are the initiator, he is the recipient, and there is the feedback. And you actually are on opposing views, are actually trying to be being better than the other, trying to claim nagpataasan ng ihi. But at the end of the day, you have to know what is the impact. Again, the result, the outcome, that is not to yourself, and then the impact. Very Kilpatrick, if you are in training, maybe you are just reacting now, but what is the learning? And what is the change in behavior? And what is the ROI and the impact? And I think that is my conclusion as far as communication is concerned. This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo. Just marvelous